I really enjoyed reading your guys' Otzi the Iceman, which came up with the mystery of why he might have died. And today we're going to talk a little more about Otzi the Iceman and how we use archaeology to learn more about him. And then we're going to start talking about the Stone Age. So on Plan Book, you're going to go to today's date. So if you're A Day, you come here. If you're B Day, you come here. And then you scroll down to Remote Learning on 6th grade. And if you can see, the first thing you do is you watch this video. And then you're going to open up your assignment on Teams, but you can do that now, and that way you can follow along with the video. So the first thing we're going to do is a worksheet called Iceman and Archaeology. And then when we finish that, then you'll go here to Stone Age Section 1 Notes and fill out your worksheet. As you can see, it says fill in the note sheet as you watch the video. You will not fill in all the note sheet today. So we will not get it all done today, but the next time you have my class, so A Day would be Friday, B Day would be next Monday, then that's when we'll finish filling in the note sheet. So if you click on the assignment, it'll pull it up in Teams. Make sure you click on your social studies class, and then it'll pull up this assignment if you click on the Stone Age Section 1. As you can see, this is your assignment for both today and the next class. So A Day, this is your assignment for September 30th and October 2nd. B Day, this is your assignment for October 1st and October 5th. As you can see, I've split it out to tell you, okay, on September 30th, this is what you need to do. On October 2nd, this is what you need to do. So we're looking here for today. So first, again, watch the video you're currently watching. And as you're watching, we're first going to do that Iceman and Archaeology worksheet below. So we're going to go down here, Iceman and Archaeology. And then it's going to pull it up in here. And then always remember, click Edit Presentation, Edit in Browser. And then as it pulls up, a lot of times it'll pull up really small. And I'll show you how to zoom in once it pulls up here. So once it pulls up, if it doesn't say View somewhere up here, then you'll click More Tests, click View. And then here it has the zoom. I always like to click to 100. That's usually a good zoom in amount. And then you can see it better. So here we're going to read number 1. It says, who really was the Iceman? He is called blank the Iceman. So thinking back to your last assignment, what name did they give the Iceman? So this is the guy we were talking about who was frozen. He was named after the mountain that he was found in. So in here, you're going to type your answer as to what that guy's name was, what nickname name they gave to him. All right, and then down here, we're going to read, his body and positions were taken to a laboratory where scientists learned more about him. His clothing, tools, and his body were well preserved. They provided clues about the Iceman's life and death. Scientists used these clues to build a story of his life. So that museum is actually still located in Italy. And we have a really neat video that I will post later that you can watch if you want to. That's not a have to, but it kind of gives a tour of that museum and talks more about, how they got him out of the ice and different ways that they examined him to figure out, when he lived, what he did. So that will be linked later on. And if you want to watch it, you can, but that's not a have to. But scientists determined that Otzi lived about 5,000 years ago, about the year 3000 BC. In many ways, the story of the Iceman helps us to understand about our past. So who studies people like Otzi? So this word we're looking here, the definition is scientist who examine objects to learn about the past peoples and cultures. So if you remember a couple of classes ago, we talked about different scientists that study history. So right here, if you need to go back to those notes, you can, but you're going to tell me, okay, is it an archaeologist, a sociologist, or a political scientist who examines objects to learn about past peoples and cultures? So the people who study Otzi, would they have been archaeologists, sociologist, or political scientist. And you'll type in the name here. So is it an archaeologist? So this is how archaeologist is spelled. Or is it a sociologist? Or was it a political scientist? What type of scientist would have studied Otzi and examined objects to learn about past peoples and cultures? So this type of scientist used two forms of evidence. So we talked about two things that they would have used to study history. The first one is the remains of living things. The remains of living things. What do we call those? Thinking about the note sheet, so sometimes they could be bones or maybe footprints sometimes. Right here, you're going to type what you think is the remains of living things. What's that word that we call those remains? And again, they could be footprints, they could be bones. The other tool that archaeologists use are objects made by people. What are those called? So they study what? And I will give you a hint. It starts with an A, and it's objects made by people. So you're going to fill those in. And once you get those filled in, then you'll click close. Don't click turn it in yet, because we still have the rest of today and next week. So now we're going to move on to Stone Age Section 1 notes. So in class, we were reading through the book and discussing kind of everything that we were talking about the first part of the Stone Age. So we're going to go ahead and click on Stone Age Section 1 notes. And again, click Edit Presentation, Edit in Browser. When it loads again, if it's too small, then you can click View and click on the zoom, click 100%. It'll zoom in. Now, first two text boxes are here, but you will need to add the rest. So to add a text box, you're going to click Insert, Text Box. Now, it may seem like it's not popping up, but if you scroll down, you can see it's right here. So then you'll pull it up to where you want it. And then once it's on the line, you'll start adding the text. So make sure to go to the end and erase all of the text that is there. And then you can start typing. So we're going to start prehistory. Some of this we've kind of talked about, so we're going to expand a little more on what it has to do with the Stone Age. So writing wasn't invented again until about 5,000 years ago. So historians call the time before there was writing prehistory. So again, prehistory was the time before writing. So prehistory was the time before writing. So that's the time period we're talking about. To study history, to study prehistory, historians rely on the work of archaeologists and anthropologists. So they're going to rely on people looking at different objects and fossils that were left behind that the archaeologists go through, and they're going to be able to learn more about cultures and customs that way. So one archaeologist who made important discoveries about prehistory was Mary Leakey. In 1959, she found some bones in East Africa, and she and her husband, Louis Leakey, believed that those bones belonged to a hominid, which is an early ancestor of humans. So Mary Leakey and Louis Leakey found bones of what they call a hominid, an early ancestor of humans. And an ancestor, so make sure you're adding your text box, an ancestor is a relative who lived in the past. So any of your relatives who lived in the past would be your ancestors. So now we're going to talk about the Stone Age and the way it's kind of broken up. So the first humans and their ancestors lived during a long period of time called the Stone Age. To help in their studies, archaeologists have divided the Stone Age into 3 different periods. We have the Paleolithic era, the Mesolithic era, and the Neolithic era. So today we're going to fill in this blank about the Paleolithic era, but we're not going to fill these two in until next class. So be listening to when the Paleolithic era was. And as you're also listening, we're going to be listening for the definition of tools. The first humans and their ancestors lived during a long period of time called the Stone Age. And again, it was broken up into 3 different periods. And those periods are based on the kinds of tools used at that time. To archaeologists, a tool, so make sure you're adding your text box, is any handheld object that has been modified to help a person accomplish a task. So anything that you can use to help you get something done is considered a tool. Kind of a funny, thought is, so if you have a yogurt cup and you forget a spoon, you could use the foil lid on the yogurt cup to shape it like a spoon. So in a sense, then that foil lid would become a tool because it's been modified to help accomplish a task. So a tool is any handheld object that has been modified to help a person accomplish a task. So the first part of the Paleolithic era is called the first part of the Stone Age, that is called the Paleolithic era. So right here, you're going to put first, or it's also known as the Old Stone Age. So during this time period, the tools were first made of stone. So the Paleolithic era is the first part of the Stone Age. Tools were first made of stone, and those tools were any handheld object that's been modified to help a person accomplish a task. Now, these tools, the early humans used them to cut, chop, or scrape food. So, these tools were first made to help them chop and process food. So their weapons weren't really, or their tools weren't as advanced as what we had today. They were mostly just for getting food. So these tools helped early humans to chop and process food. So that might be, something like scraping roots or scraping meat off of bones or cutting or chopping. So these tools were actually called choppers. And they were just little round rocks that one edge was sharpened, and they used that to get their food chopped and processed. Over time, though, they learned to make better tools. These tools were then made of a mineral called flint. One tool that they made it out of flint was the hand axe. They also made spears using the flint. So examples of the tools made of flint were spears and hand axes. So these tools helped, they used the axes to break tree limbs. So these tools helped the early humans to break tree limbs. They also helped them to dig. They used the axes to dig. They also used the axes to cut animal hides. And they would use the spear to hunt. They were able to hunt, from farther distance away because they could throw the spear. They no longer had to stand close to the animals they were hunting. And then that way they could start hunting larger animals. And they would start hunting animals like deer, horses, bison, and elephant-like creatures called mammoths. So the tools that were made of flint, examples again were hand axe and spear. And they helped them to dig, break tree limbs, cut animal hides, and hunt. So as their tools were improving, their quality of life was improving as well because they had more options of things they could do. So that's all the notes we're going to take on this note sheet today, kind of talking about the tools that they used in that first part of the Stone Age. I'm also going to put a link to a video of a guy showing how you could use these or make these weapons out of different rocks, or what these people living during this Paleolithic era might have used. If you have any questions, send me a message on Teams or on Remind or send me an email.